Yo, what is up, guys? Welcome back to the We Got Issues podcast. Today, I am your host, MLGman, aka Luke, and I've got my homie, co host, Xboxgut, aka Cameron. And today, as you guys can see by the title, we have our long awaited, not really, but Watchmen review. This is going to be a very interesting episode for the book club because we have some differing thoughts than a lot of people. But we're going to be here to talk about it. Uh, yeah, I'm not going to beat around the bush too long. Cameron, do you got anything to say, my friend?
Welcome. Appreciate you guys hopping in this buddy read. I know people are gonna hate me on this episode, but I don't really care, man. This is my opinion, and this is what I thought about the book. I'm sure everyone's gonna be thinking differently than my opinions, probably your opinions as well. But I think me and you are definitely in the same boat where we both had some feelings about the first half and then had some feelings about the second. Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting video. I hope fucking people don't hate me for this fucking review, but I don't give a shit. Whatever.
That's why we're here, man. This is raw, just takes, man. This is our pod. This is what we do. We ain't here to sugarcoat shit. We're here to give our genuine thoughts. Um, but yeah, I mean, starting us off, man, we got Watchmen. The book opens up, man. We're following Rorschach. We're seeing this description, right, of this disgusting city. He's talking about the whores and the prostitutes and the homeless and, you know, dead bodies in the alleyways and blood in the streets. And it's just very visceral and, gritty and very grounded. And just the way that Rorschach talks in his journal is it's like short and sweet punchy sentences that just like drive home like it's simultaneously descriptive but also very punchy, and like it just drives home the brutal feeling of the city. uh, and you've got the rain and like the cloaked in darkness, and it's very much like a Gotham City kind of location. I mean, it's supposed to be New York City if I remember, but it's very much like a, I don't know, very gritty ground level take on New York City. Um, what do you think about that first issue where we're following, at first there's these police detectives, trying to figure out this murder, and then we step into the shoes of Rorschach. What are your thoughts on that, man?
Incredible. Really, really fucking enjoyed that first issue, man. I thought it, like you're saying, it Rorschach's description of this fucked up city, which is New York, which is kind of rings true still to this day. Um, it is extremely gripping, man. I thought it was fucking extremely well written, and even the conveyance of like the way Dave Gibbons kind of conveys you know as Rorschach's kind of delving deeper and deeper into the the way this city works, the way it runs, the people that are in it, and the corruption that runs within the veins of this city. You get like a very cool shot of you know the comedian's little pin that he wears, right? That smiley face where it shows it with the blood on it at the end of the street, and it just kind of zooms out and 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 out. I think that shit was really cool. Um, Another one of my favorite parts was the fact, not the fact, the way Rorschach goes inside of the comedian's house, and it's like dead silent, no dialogue, and it's just him kind of looking, looking, and just kind of investigating, which I thought was really tone setting and extremely fucking intriguing because it almost makes you feel like you're in it as well with Rorschach. You might not be there physically, but you're there mentally with him, where it's just kind of silent. It's giving you this kind of creepy, off vibe of this fucked up city where this guy literally just got pushed off of a building, um, out of his window, plummeting. He went concrete diving, as Rorschach says in a couple issues later. Um, it was fantastic. I thought that it wasn't anything like it wouldn't rank in my top 5 single issues I've ever read, but man, it was incredible. Like it was really fucking good. Um, and it almost, I'm not even gonna lie to you guys, it almost comes as a detriment to the rest of the story, in my opinion, because that first issue was so fucking good. And I'm just gonna be flat out transparent with you guys. Best issue of the comic, like for sure. I don't think it. This was the peak of the book, which extremely strong fucking opening. And yeah, we'll get into our thoughts of the later half, but extremely well written first issue, man. I really, if I was picking this up as like a, oh, Watchmen's coming out of here, it's highly regarded, Alan Moore's writing it, I would have picked up this first issue and thought this was going to be one of the best ongoing comics for sure. I really enjoyed the first issue.
Yeah, man, I feel much the same. And for me personally, that first issue was probably one of my favorite single issues I've ever read. I mean, there's
Understandable.
some stuff recently. You know that I read Animal Man, and I was talking about that final issue of Animal Man. Absolutely love it, and I would honestly put that first issue of Watchmen right up there with it. I just love the descriptions and just like that kind of really gritty detective work that I wish we would see more in like some Batman stories. Like that's the kind of shit that I want to see from Batman. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, exactly.
it's super dope. And you know, talking about Dave Gibbons' art and the paneling of it all, dude, fucking beautiful. I love the art. First of all, that was a highlight for this whole book was the art and the coloring. Um, I forget who does the coloring, but just the color palette that's used throughout this whole book is absolutely
Chef's kiss.
amazing.
Chef's fucking kiss. It to me, you know, Dave Gibbons and the colorist are literally what makes this book iconic, in my personal opinion. Like it has such a the whole book is such a fucking vibe, only because of the art by Dave Gibbons and whoever the colorist is. It's truly fucking some of my favorite art in all of fucking comics for sure. It is up there with like some Jim Lee stuff, man. Jim Lee, his era of X-Men is top two, maybe even top three favorite art styles or art in comics that I've read. Um, it's fucking awesome. It totally sells that whole grittiness, that whole vibe. Um, it makes you feel like what Rorschach was explaining in his journal at the very beginning of the book feels like it looks like that. You know what I mean?
For
With
sure.
like the kid sitting in issue, like I think it was 3 or 2, or the kids reading that side comic, and it just all the posters on the wall saying, "Oh, this person got raped," like this and that. It is fantastic the way it you know, the writing and the art definitely go hand in hand together. It's like peanut butter and jelly, man. It's awesome.
Well, yeah, one of the things that I loved about it too, other than like the art itself, like I was saying, is the paneling. But the way that the panels almost seem like camera like perspective.
Yeah.
I think that it's the way that it's paneled out is super cinematic. And I
Oh
think
yeah.
definitely knowing like when this book came out and the inspiration that it's had on other creators, I can definitely see and safely say that it set the stage for a lot of stuff that came after it, with the way that, and I don't know who was exactly responsible for that, if it was Alan Moore as the writer who like was kind of being the director, or if that was Dave Gibbons' interpretation of what Alan Moore was writing. Like I don't know who's responsible for like the angles and stuff, but you'll see throughout the book too is like a lot of times you'll have like those shots from like above where like you can really feel like it's like a sprawling city, or like you were saying, focusing in on the button and like slowly zooming out, and you just get this very cinematic feel to it all, to where it almost at some points, although it's very wordy, um it's feels like you're watching like a really like, I don't know, just like really atmospheric movie. You know what I mean?
Like a noir like type
Yeah,
shit.
absolutely. And that's one of my favorite vibes of it all. And I think that in this first issue, it's portrayed like the best. Um, yeah, no, this first issue,
Well,
fucking fantastic.
the lines in my opinion get pretty blurred with like that whole vibe he set up. That's why I said it's kind of like a detriment to, yeah, with the fucking hook and shit like that, like the grapple hook. Like
Yeah.
I think he did such a good job selling you this type of world in issue number one that it extremely becomes a detriment to the story later, because you're like, man, when are we gonna get back to that dark, gritty fucking vibe that issue one was? And then you start getting like kind of hints of what he's really trying to tell you, and it's not that first issue. And I think yeah, the first issue was such a banger in my opinion. It just definitely hurt the overall story in my opinion, which is weird to say because strong opening, um, you know, came out the gate swinging. But yeah, it's
Well,
just
I
kind of,
think I would have much rather have read a comic that was just purely from Rorschach's point of view. I think.
that's why that Rorschach is the selling point of this comic in my opinion. I like I like um I'm not even gonna lie to you guys. I really do think that Rorschach and Mr. Dr. Manhattan are like the two only characters that I really liked. Rorschach being the main one, obviously. Um, just the mystery around him, why his mask, this and that. He's like stinky all the time, loves beans, loves cereal and shit. Like I thought he was a cool character stuck in this world where he fit so perfectly, like the final puzzle piece. And yeah, like I'm gonna repeat it again. It just feels like the Alan Moore wanted to tell a different story than what he gave us in the first issue, which is, it sucks
It,
because
it
I thought that
definitely feels like
incredible.
we were promised something that wasn't fully delivered on.
Yeah, it's like a video game where the trailer's like awesome, and then the game comes out and it fucking sucks.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
Like fucking like Anthem.
oh
Who
dude,
remembers
yeah, Anthem
Anthem?
looks sick. Yeah, Anthem, fucking the Destiny killer. Get the fuck
Yeah,
out of here with that shit. Nah,
but
go
what
ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, I mean, talking about since we're on the topic of Rorschach, one of the things that I really did like about Rorschach is just being in his head and his thought process, and especially later on when we do see him from the perspectives of other characters, he's very clearly like mentally ill. Like he has this very um his personality is very removed from reality. He like lacks a lot of empathy, I feel like, and his way of showing interest and care to the side characters is very different, and I think it's a very clear way of showing that Rorschach is probably autistic first of all. And he has a lot of the same like psychotic, I don't know, just kind of traits that you'll see in like serial killers and stuff, where there's just something off about him. You know what I mean? Which I mean, I think was just really interesting to read about, and just having all of these little quirks to his character, whether they be positive or just kind of weird, or him being like a loony essentially. Um, I don't know. There's just all of these quirks about his character that make Rorschach feel so unique. Other than him just being outright badass, but like as you go on, you learn, like you said, him breaking into people's houses and eating the beans and shit like that. It's just little shit, but it makes him so unique compared to other characters that I've read in comics. Um, and then just being in his head and seeing him from other perspectives, he's just such an interesting character. Um, and yeah, I really enjoyed reading about Rorschach in particular, and I think most people did.
I've seen a couple of people say that Rorschach is their favorite comic character of all time. I've seen a couple people say that, which I get it. Complex, but I wish Watchmen followed Rorschach and his weird way of trying to figure out who the fuck killed the comedian. And I feel like Dr. Manhattan was a good like little segue kind of off of that, but it just feels like I mean, are we still on issue one, or are we gonna get more deeper into
I
it?
mean, we were in issue one, but we were kind of just talking about stuff in general. I mean, issue one is very Rorschach centric, so then we were just kind of talking about Rorschach as a character. But yeah, we can move on. Um, so from issue one, I mean, plot wise, essentially, there's this guy who's been killed named Edward Blake, uh, also known as the Comedian. Essentially, this takes place in, I believe, the 80s, during still the Cold War. There's a lot of Cold War tensions around. During that time, a lot of people were scared of nuclear war between Russia, and that was sort of a prevalent thing. You have like what they called the Star Wars, with like space, like satellite wars. There's just a bunch of Cold War shit, which plays heavily in. You've got characters like Doctor Manhattan, obviously named after the Manhattan Project, who's a clear allegory or representation of America's nuclear arsenal, right? Um, the whole idea is that we have him, and like other countries are scared because it's like he's essentially America's nuclear arsenal. Um, anyway, Cold War, the 80s, Edward Blake dies. And so it's really strange because the comedian was known as like a really strong guy, and somehow he was just thrown off a building. He's dead, and we're trying to figure out why. And it's around this time we also learned that superheroes and vigilantes have been outlawed, and there's certain vigilantes that have basically signed with the government. They're like government sanctioned superheroes essentially, where their identities are known, and but they still are able to kind of operate to some extent under the government's watchful eye. Very much like a boys kind of thing, like you're saying, kind of like the Seven. We were talking about that earlier, but it just reminded me because you brought up the boys earlier when we were talking, but also kind of like even kind of like Invincible, working with the Guardians of the Globe underneath like the government and stuff like that. Um, anyway, so you're trying to figure out who killed him. You got Rorschach. He's kind of outside of the system. He when all of the vigilante stuff got banned, he kind of slipped away into the shadows and is still operating, and so he's kind of like a wanted man, but he essentially believes that there's somebody going around killing superheroes, or that's after different superheroes. So he goes to his old partners in crime, but like his old buddies. He goes to
Yeah.
Ozymandias, who's um, almost like a Bruce Wayne kind of character. He's like a billionaire. He talks to him and warns him. He talks to Owlman, who's like also kind of like a Batman kind of character. He goes to Doctor Manhattan and what was her name? Uh, Silk Spider or whatever. Silk Spectre is her superhero name. He talks to her and he's just warning everybody, and everybody's like, "Get the fuck out of here, Rorschach! Like you're crazy, man." And everybody thinks that he's tripping. So Rorschach's like, "All right, man. Like, whatever you say, I'm just here to warn you. What you do with that warning is up to you. But I'm doing my part, essentially." And then from there, we kind of have a good idea of what Rorschach is. We're setting up the plot a little bit, and the story is kind of traded off to different perspectives. We start to see the relationship between, I believe her name, is it Sally? Is the main chick? Or is that her mom?
It's Lori or like
Lori.
or something like that, yeah.
Yeah, Sally is her mom. Um, but we see like the little bit of the relationship between Lori and Doctor Manhattan. Um, the way that they operate. We see the way that I don't know, just the way that like we start to expand upon our cast and see the relationships between different characters, and then we move on. Lori goes to see her mom, who is an ex like superhero from back in the day, basically like a golden age superhero, like an original Justice League kind of character. And then while she's visiting her mom, they're having Edward Blake or the comedian's funeral on the side, and we get some input into her past and the comedian's past as well. She's talking, and then she gets that flashback and sees when we see this scene where she almost gets raped by the comedian, and we see that maybe this comedian guy, wasn't that great of a person, and why do we care? It asks the question, why do we care that he's dead if he's a violent individual who, you know, tried to rape
He
this
was
lady?
literally he was terrorizing fucking civilians, like
Yeah,
throwing fucking mustard gas at them and shit like
well,
that.
it's like
Like it was
tear gas or something.
yeah, tear gas, some shit like that. Yeah, he was a piece of shit.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so yeah, it's just kind of setting him up as just this shitty human being, uh, and we're supposed to ask the question of why, you know. But one of my favorite parts about this issue that I know I've talked to you about, and I've talked about in my own review of Watchmen, is in this second issue we get this scene where um, they've got this meeting for what they call the Crime Busters, and is essentially trying to create this superhero group. And you've got this guy, Captain Metropolis, who's very much like a, I don't know, like a Captain America slash Superman, like a very patriotic hero, you know, hopeful kind of character. I mean, hence the name Captain Metropolis, right? Like
Yeah,
sort of I like an ideal version of both. Um, and he's basically trying to put together a new group of superheroes to relive the glory days of the Golden Age. Uh, and what I kind of got from that personally is when I was reading it, it was put into perspective, like a historical perspective. Because you got to think when the Golden Age of superheroes, like in real life, was coming out, it was just prior to World War II and then after into the 50s, right? It was very patriotic about, about democracy, about protecting America, about punching Nazis and, being very hopeful, um, which, suits the tone of America at the time. Just everybody was very, I would say, hopeful about the war. People were scared, sure, but especially coming off of the war, celebrating, and it was just a very hopeful time. And then you have the baby boom, right? Everybody is back home from the war. Everybody's fucking, population's going up. You got the American dream, you got this house, a wife, two kids, and car, kind of just a perfect kind of settlement. You know what I mean? It's just America is at a good point, but you've got this underlying feeling because right after World War II is when the Cold War starts. So into the 50s, you have everything's booming, everything's cool, but you got this underlying fear of the Cold War behind everything. You've got Russia doing shit in the background, and everybody's just a little on edge. And it makes you wonder if this hope and like this happiness that everybody was feeling was sincere, or if it's just kind of like kind of a facade when everybody goes back home at the end of the day and they turn on the news and you hear about shit. You know what I mean? It's just kind of like it's a rocky situation, and it plays with that. And into the 60s, especially when we're going into Vietnam, right? And there's a lot of corruption that becomes very apparent in the American government, especially after the JFK assassination, and then with the Nixon administration, which famously with like the Watergate scandals and stuff like that, and everything having to go with Vietnam. There's definitely a tonal switch of the American people between the 50s and the 60s. Everybody becomes a lot more cynical, and there's just like this darker undertone, which Alan Moore definitely plays with. But relating that back to the superheroes, right? In the scene, we've got the crime busters, and this guy, Captain Metropolis, is trying to hold on to those feelings of just like the patriotic feelings of the 50s and post World War II, and trying to create this new superhero group that um, idealizes, those feelings. But it's a new world, it's a new era, and nobody's really fucking with it like they would have back when. And so that's when you get the comedian. He goes on this kind of tirade. He goes on this like rant about how everybody's kind of a fucking idiot, and you're like, he basically says it's a joke, and he burns down the whole like spreadsheet plan of the thing, and he's like, you guys are all fucking clowns, you're being played by the system, don't you see what's actually happening in the government and this country? It's all crumbling and falling apart, we're all being played for fools, and I'm the only one who can see it, it's just a big joke, is essentially what he's saying. Uh,
Which I actually I like that part
I
like a
do
lot.
too.
I thought that part was fucking like I I don't want to like give my thoughts too. I don't want to blow my load too fucking early if whatever. But like that was the only commentary that I actually fucking really enjoyed.
Yeah, I mean, and one of the things about the comedian that I'll be honest, Cameron, the comedian's one of my favorite characters. Is he a shitty human being?
Yeah.
Yes. But the further you get into the story, the more you learn about him, and by the end, you realize that he's kind of right.
Bro's kind of spitting.
Yeah,
Bro's kind of fucking spitting. No, dude, for real. Like in that whole crime buster section, which I thought was fucking like I completely think the comedian's a fucking bad person. Right? Let's get that out there. But bro has got like some legitimacy to what he's saying. Because I'm in the whole crime buster scene, I am like the comedian, where it's like, dude, like, come on, let's not hold on to this fucking fake dream that doesn't even exist anymore.
exactly.
Like, yeah, I wouldn't have gone about it like that. Like, I wouldn't have gone about it like burning the fucking the map or whatever like that. But I would have, I totally resonate with what he's saying. Where it's like, dude, like, open your eyes. We're not living in this fucking fantasy world anymore. Like,
Exactly.
I get it, and I really fucking like that scene a lot because the commentary on that scene struck home with me. Um, Even though I don't agree with fucking, the comedian as a person and what he did, I still think that, that dialogue that he was spitting right there was true as fuck. And for being an old comic, I thought it was extremely relevant even today.
Well, yeah, dude, I was just about to say that, without, you know, talking about my own beliefs too much. I think it's still a piece of political commentary that I kind of agree with, and I think still rings true today. Is at the end of the day, personally, I think we're all kind of being played for fools. You know what I mean? Um, no matter what side of the spectrum you're on of political spectrum, I think everybody is being played for fools, and I think that was the point that the comedian was trying to make. Granted, he did it in a very violent and brash kind of way, but
Yeah,
that's just who he is. And if you look at the scene, right, everybody else is kind of quiet, but the comedian's the outspoken one because he's saying what everybody else is thinking. He's just the only one brash enough and rude enough to kind of be very blunt about it. And once that shit happens, Captain Metropolis is like, guys, where are you going? And they're like,
yeah,
yeah,
no, I felt bad for him because
we
he's like, no, man, like, no, stay, like, we can do this, and fucking everybody is like, nah, man, this is like that dream you're chasing is not real anymore. You know
right.
what I mean?
And that's one of the things that I love is, I never really took the time to think about it in like a historical perspective, right? Is how much like superheroes in comics reflect what's going on in the real world. You know what I mean? And the feelings of the people. Because at the end of the day, it's real people and American citizens who are writing these characters. So, of course, their own beliefs are going to translate into the overall vibe of these characters, right? So if spirits are high and the vibes are good, you get shit like the Golden Age, back when it's very patriotic and punching Hitler in the face, kind of shit. But then
Yeah.
when America starts to get more cynical, that seeps into the writing and the comics, and that's where going into the '60s, you get comics, and going into the Silver Age from the Golden Age, you get more complex shit with darker themes into the '70s, and I think what's really cool is this is portraying that it it's just the tonal shift of America through the eyes of comic book superheroes. You know what I mean? And I think that's just a really cool idea that I never thought about. Uh, that honestly is probably one of my favorite parts about this book. I mean, there's a lot that I don't like about the Watchmen, but that is one thing that kind of blew my mind. I won't lie. Uh, when that stuck out like a sore thumb to me, and I was like putting the pieces together in my mind, having, I mean, I'm not a fucking expert, but I do have some knowledge about the historical aspects, and I've taken classes about the Vietnam War and like the Cold War and stuff like that. So I have some historical knowledge of like that time period, right? And so just being able to make those parallels to this story and kind of understand what was happening on a slightly deeper level than people who wouldn't know, I thought was just a really cool. Yeah, I'm not trying to toot my own horn.
No, no, don't.
It's just
No,
something that I picked up on personally, that I thought was really neat.
yeah, and that's why I do enjoy that whole comedian part where he's kind of saying what they feel but don't want to say out loud, because it without even knowing, like historical relevance, like you do, it still rings true with what I know, which isn't much, obviously, but it's still like, and it could be applied to anything with that whole comedian like section where it's like, it could be literally applied to anything. I'm not firing any examples off the top of my head, but that is the comedian, his whole dialogue in that section can be literally applied to anything, modern day, historical, fucking politics, anything, family issues. Like, it's like it's all rooted in his whole dialogue in that section is all rooted in reality.
Absolutely.
And as I feel like a person that doesn't really have like ambitious fucking thoughts about fucking, oh, let's go climb Mount Everest. I'm more of a realist, man. Like, I'm not gonna be able to fucking climb Mount Everest. Why the fuck am I even sitting here wasting my time thinking that I can when I know it's inattainable? You know what I mean? Like, what am I doing wasting my fucking time? Like I said, I don't think comedian is a good character by any means, but I do really resonate with that whole dialogue section about him. I thought it was um really fucking good.
Well, yeah, and I mean, like you were saying, the fact that you're able to apply what he's saying to other aspects of your life, as well as even modern politics, just goes to show how, well written it was. That it's just so applicable even today. Um, what the point that he was trying to make. Um, yeah, no, I just really dig it, man. He was all these, especially Captain Metropolis, looking at everything with rose tinted glasses, as they say.
Oh, that's perfect fucking saying right there.
Yeah,
It's just someone that's stuck in the rose tinted glasses vision,
yeah.
where you got someone like the comedian just straight up like, you know, shutting it down like an asshole, but being a fucking, being the realist that sometimes we need to put us in check.
And I'll be honest, man, maybe some of the reason why I resonated so much with the comedian, obviously, like we said, he's a dick. He did some terrible shit. I mean, not even going to talk about the shit that he did in Vietnam. Well, I mean, I guess we'll get to that. But he's not a good guy. But that part in particular, in talking about how brash he is and kind of saying what everybody's thinking but is too afraid to say, that's kind of the person who I am in a lot of ways. Like, if you go to my work and ask my coworkers, I work in customer service at a Starbucks, right? Um, I've almost gotten fired multiple times, and I wouldn't consider myself a rude person. I'm just blunt, and a lot of people perceive that a certain way. Like, for example, a customer, uh, like I'll put a drink out at the end, right? And somebody will be like, "Hey, is this my drink?" And I will say to the customer, "I don't know. Did you read the label? Is that your name on there? No? Okay, so it's not your drink." Like, that's the kind of shit that I would say. And my coworkers find it funny, but they're all like, nice chicks. They're not gonna say that. It's what they're thinking, but I'm the only one, who's gonna say that. Um,
That's why that whole dialogue section, I know we're fucking totally glazing this section of dialogue, but that's why that section of dialogue is, I'm not gonna glaze it that hard, but it's masterfully written because you can apply it to something as heavy as politics, and it's something as light and as simple as you working at
right.
Starbucks and saying someone, "Oh, this isn't your fucking drink. Did you read the like?" It's masterfully written because it can be understood on even the littlest of levels to the highest of fucking levels.
Well, I'm not saying necessarily that the scene in particular applies to that, but just like the way that the comedian himself is portrayed
Yeah.
in that instance reminds me of myself sometimes. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Oh yeah, 100%.
and I think a lot of people too. You know, there comes to be like a a breaking point for a lot of people where they're just like kind of fed up, and that's who the comedian is. Is he's just fed up with the system, with the way things are, and he's just basically trying to tell everybody, open your fucking eyes. You know what I mean? Um, yeah, no, I just really enjoy. I like the comedian's character, despite the shit that he's done. I don't agree with it, but I think like he's a bad guy, but he's a well written character. You know,
Yeah, he's morally complex.
facts. Yeah, and I enjoyed that a ton. But you know, we've been on this little segment for a minute now. We can move on. I mean, we kind of get this part where Rorschach sneaks into this guy's place. He's a former villain of, I guess, I forget what their group was called, but he's just one of their former villains. And he's trying to talk to him. He's like interrogating him, beating his ass. And so we find out that the comedian came to his house one night. He was drunk and he was just talking, basically spewing nonsense about everything just being a joke and, you know, talking about some grand conspiracy kind of thing. He sounds like a Reddit conspiracy theorist, kind of. He's just drunk. Like at Thanksgiving, you got that one drunk uncle that starts talking politics. That's basically what's going on here. And so,
that whole scene in particular, the way it's drawn
oh
is
yeah,
fucking
with the
insane.
shadows and the light coming from the windows and yeah, dude.
Yeah, and just the way every single panel is drawn the exact same way, but with the comedian in a different position, because you can see
And the alternating
that villain.
colors.
Yeah, and the alternating colors, the lighting and shit like that. But the whole time you could just see that fucking villain laying in his bed with his feet fucking standing up the whole time in the middle of that scene.
But not
Which
only
is
that, but the way
insane.
that the comedian is drawn and like his poses and stuff, you can just see how manic he is, like how fucking out of his mind he is, like holding his head, like almost crying and like shouting, like fucking bipolar as shit. You know what I mean? Like uh on his knees crying and then standing with his arms on his head like just in disbelief. Like it's just such a well orchestrated scene. Um, yeah, no, it's fucking awesome. But then it just goes, just Rorschach just investigating who knows what. I believe is it in this issue where he goes to the bar? I don't remember. Maybe it's the issue after. But I know there's a scene where one of the scenes I love is Rorschach going into a bar and just kind of interrogating people and like he takes the one dude's arm
They're all
and
afraid of him.
yeah, because he comes.
Breaking his fucking fingers.
Yeah, because Rorschach evidently is like a frequent visitor of that bar because it's known for like it's a slummy bar. There's criminals and there's a criminal element there. Excuse me. And Rorschach often goes there and just kind of brutalizes people for information, and it's kind of funny. But it is around this time in the third issue that we start to get introduced to aspects of the story that I did not care about. Alright. So yeah, we start to get into the part of the story that I don't really care for, which are these little segments with the newsstand. We see this little black boy with this old dude that runs the stand. And I understand the point of this is it's through these scenes that we're supposed to get the overall vibe of just like the random people, the everyday people, what they're feeling. It's supposed to kind of be a world building thing to understand what's going on in the politics and like the reactions to what is actually happening in our story, and just kind of the escalation of things. But I really don't think that shit was necessary, and I think acted as a detriment to the overall story. Like, I can appreciate what they were trying to do, but was it executed poorly? Yeah. What are your thoughts on that, man? Like these little sections with the newsstand in particular. Not even talking about the little side comic thing, but just like the random dialogue on the street and stuff like that.
Yeah, I got thoughts on both for sure. I think the like I went back and said, man, at the beginning of this episode, like that first issue was such a selling point about the whole comic in my opinion, where it made you just wonder when are we gonna get back to Rorschach? When are we gonna get back to the crime thriller that this story was setting up to be? And then you start getting some shit about the world building, which I understand. Obviously, like you said, I understand why it's there. It's world building this kind of fucked up New York. You know what I mean? And it just like you're saying, it is a detriment to the story because it's well, for me personally, it's a detriment to the story because I just wanted to get back to Rorschach. I wanted to get back to him and his quest to figure out who the fuck is killing these masked heroes. And yeah, that's my thoughts on that. It was filler in my personal opinion. It felt like filler. It felt like where they're in a 12 issue series, there shouldn't be filler like whatsoever. It should just be punchy and straight to the point. And yeah, that's my thoughts on that. My thoughts on the side little mini comic. Um, it was hard to read, in my opinion. Like very hard to read because it's the way Alan Moore wrote the dialogue of the street, like the street level, like people in this world that are living in it, and the comics side by 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 side. It made it extremely hard to read it to the point to where I was just ignoring the comic strip and just reading the dialogue and then going back and reading the comic as one. I think it could have extremely helped out the way the pacing of the book, or not the book, of the comic strip, if it was just maybe its own issue. Maybe if it's a section of an issue, because these issues do get fairly long. Um, I just think the way they were telling it side by side, like in a single panel. I know we're doing like 4x4, no, yeah, like 4x4 panels, right? Like where you get four across, four down.
More or less. Well, it's like three by three.
Yeah, 3x3. Um, every single one of the panels, whenever the comic strip was being told, it was dialogue by someone, comic strip, dialogue by someone, comic strip, and it was like it was totally taking me out of the whole experience of this world building, which I get that's what Alan Moore's trying to do is set up this world and kind of expand upon it. When I'm trying to figure out about this world and trying to learn how it works, but then you got this fucking comic strip completely. It's like they both canceled out each other. Where I'm trying to pay attention to the dialogue of the street people, and then I'm trying to listen to the dialogue of this fucking comic strip. But if it was just separate and world building comic strip, you know what I mean? It would have been told so much better. And yeah, I didn't like it. Did not like it. It was totally sucking me out of the entirety of the experience of Watchmen. And I wish it wasn't like that, man. I really didn't. I really don't.
Well, I mean, to expand on what you're saying, like when it first comes up, it's just so out of place. Like it feels like I under what I from what I understand is it's supposed to have like some sort of symmetry to what's actually going on and kind of reveal some stuff and foreshadow some stuff, and it's kind of there for people to go digging and like kind of make theories about what's coming and what's gonna come and stuff like that. I get that. That's fine and dandy, but it really does get in the way. Like already this shit with these random people, it's just world building. It's not really that important. It's just kind of pedestrians talking to each other and you're sort of trying to understand like the escalating politics that are going on in the background, which already isn't hugely important. So how are you going to make a separate story that's getting in the way of shit that's already not important? You know what I mean? Like it's so far removed from what's actually going on that I just could not care about it. And the way that it's written, it just feels out of place, and the setting and everything, it's just so different from what I came to expect from the Watchmen, and the kind of the setting and the themes and everything. It just felt out of place and did not belong, just to me personally. The first couple of times that it came up, I tried reading it, and it kind of just throws you into the middle of this story anyway. You know what I mean? It's like you're already like, I don't know, it just kind of drops you into this story uh, without much explanation of what's going on. And I don't know, I tried reading it, didn't care for it. And so from that point on, I just kind of skipped it anytime that it came up. I couldn't tell you what happens in it. Like, obviously, as I'm reading it, I'll see it at the corner of my eye. There's some shit where he gets, like, shipwrecked. And other than that, I honestly don't know what happens because I didn't read it.
Yeah,
But
and a lot of it, I mean, the whole comic strip, in my opinion, is just straight up. What's the word I'm looking for? Like, it's not like it's I'm missing the word that I'm trying to describe it with. It's like it's like not literal. Like it's kind of like ambiguous. Like you don't
yeah,
really understand what the fuck. You need to really like think about it and like that's what
Loki,
I
it's
don't.
on some, like, Dark Souls shit.
Yeah, exactly. Like you really need to dig for the meaning of what it is instead of it just being direct and being like, which I get that's why it's there. But if you're the comic strip just was not for me. I didn't get it. I didn't like it, and I didn't read it. I didn't read much of it. I read the first couple of issues worth of it, but then I was like, man, this is. I just don't get it. You know what I mean? And call me what you want, but I don't know, man. That shit was to an extreme detriment to the story. That was constantly, constantly taking me out of the experience.
Well, and like what you were saying, right, is also is the way that it kept going back and forth. It's jarring, honestly, and just for me reading it, I was getting overwhelmed with it. There's just, like, so
Yeah,
much, and, like, it's disconnected from each other. They don't match. It's like, why am I reading what this guy's saying, which I already don't really care about, and then going to something completely different and then back? Like, dude, my mind, I felt like I was gonna have a fucking aneurysm trying to read this shit. And I was like, dude, I don't care. And it goes back to what we were saying in the beginning, right? It felt like we were promised something with Rorschach in the first issue, just being very grounded, brutal detective noir shit, and then we just get some stupid shit that we don't care about. And sadly, it's not just a one and done thing. Every issue, it returns to the same thing, like, at some point in the issue, we go back to this newsstand, and I just don't fucking care. You know what I mean?
yeah, 100% get where you're coming from, man. Like, yeah, not gonna lie to you guys, man. This comic, Watchmen, was not for me. I enjoyed the first two issues. Thought the dialogue was really masterfully written. I thought the vibe was there, but this comic was not for me. Like, I don't know much. I'm not a big history guy. I know a lot about World War II. I don't know much about Cold War and stuff like that around this era. Um, but I think even without knowing that, having that you know, um, knowledge, you know what I mean, about the book, I just think it was not a story for me, man. Like at all. Like I know it sounds stupid, but like it just is not my pace. I'd rather read something um different, man. Like it just wordy as all hell, and a lot of words with shallowness, in my opinion. Like especially like the newsstand, the comic strip. It all felt just unnecessary whenever we were almost given a glimpse of what could have been with that first issue. I know people love this shit. I know you're going to disagree with me, but this is my hot take about Watchmen. That first issue was very promising. So was the second one. But the rest of the story for me was just. I've tried to read the story twice, man. This is my second time attempting to read it.
Yeah, I
And
was
I
gonna
didn't.
say, just for transparency, you, Cameron, you did not finish it. There's some. I don't think we've said that yet. Uh,
Yeah, no, we haven't.
okay.
Which is like the big reveal. I couldn't finish this book, man. I was totally sucked out of the experience by issue 6. Like I thought Manhattan's backward story was cool, which I'm sure we'll get to that here in a little bit. But yeah, around this issue 6, issue 7 mark, I just was totally totally taken out of the experience, and it felt like it was jarring to read, and it felt like homework to get to, and it felt like for a 12 issue series, this shit felt like 4 compendiums to get through, man. It felt like a fucking drag, in my opinion. And those first 2 issues were knocked out of the park, man. But after that, I just, like I said at the very beginning of this episode, it felt like a detriment to the story how good those first 2 issues were. Because man, this was not it. Not it, my dude. Not it for me. I know you finished it, Luke, obviously, and I don't mind if you spoil, because I probably will never get around to reading this story fully. Um, yeah, not for me, man. I just did not enjoy it at all. I thought this was, Alan Moore's way of plugging in his political commentary, his political stance, his political view, um, a lot, and I just not buying it. I'm not into it. I want to read a gritty, dark, noir murder mystery, man. And I'm not trying to hear about your political views. I'm not trying to hear about your stance on what it was like back in the day. I'm sure for when it came out, it was groundbreaking because it was relevant. Um, and I can understand why people enjoy this story, but as a comic reader like me, not for me by any means. I don't think it's the worst thing I've ever fucking read, but it's definitely not anywhere near some of my favorites, man, that I've read this past year. Um, yeah, did not enjoy it, man. Really, like I said, I enjoyed the first 2 issues, but the later bits, excluding fucking Manhattan's backstory, was just jarring to fucking get through. And I know you guys might think I'm trolling, but I'm dead serious, man. I could not finish this book. I really couldn't.
Well, yeah, dude, again, I don't blame you, man. And speaking as somebody who did finish it, and I feel like me and you, we differ sometimes, but at the end of the day, we do have pretty similar tastes. I can tell you, man, you're not missing out on much. Uh,
Yeah, and it also didn't help that I'm like, man, I want to finish this. I'm like, a little more than halfway done, and my boy Luke here is like, not gonna lie to you, man. If you didn't like it this far, you're not gonna like the rest. And he's like, you're not missing out on much. And it totally, no, not talking shit. I appreciate your fucking insight, but it just did not make me want to finish it even more and even more and even more. I just honestly, look, he felt like I was gonna be wasting my fucking time, even though I know at the end of the day I wasn't gonna enjoy it. Um, yeah, and I'd rather just read something that I'm more into than this, which, you know, say what you want. You can't review it if you didn't finish it. I'm just giving my thoughts, my raw thoughts of the fact that I just didn't like it, so I couldn't finish it.
for sure. And I talked to you about this before, but just to give the audience some context, right? I was telling Cameron, it's not like we get paid to do this. We're not. We're at the end of the day, we're reading for fun. It's because we enjoy reading comics. We enjoy talking about them, and there is this stubbornness in me deep down where if I am not enjoying something, I'll push through it and just try to finish it. But in the past, this happened to me with reading manga and reading novels and stuff and making content around them, is how I got so burnt out and would take long stretches away from YouTube for not making content and stuff. I was just burnt out around everything. And if I'm not enjoying something, I've come to learn that it's okay to drop it. If we're doing this for fun, for our own enjoyment, for a hobby, there's like no point in pushing ourselves. And it's not for lack of trying either. In Cameron's case, I think he said this. He read it up to issue 4 initially, didn't really care for it, restarted it from the beginning, and then got up to issue 6 and still didn't care for it. He's tried multiple times to get into it. And so that's why I told him. I was like, man, like knowing your tastes and me having similar tastes, there are aspects that I liked in the beginning, and if you didn't even really pick up on those or care as much as I did for the stuff going on in the beginning, I know for damn near a fact you're not going to give a fuck, and it's just going to get worse and worse and worse, because that's how I felt. um, so yeah, no, I'm just trying to give some transparency, and I don't blame you whatsoever, man. um, yeah, it's I I don't want to say it's not good. It's just not for us, you know. Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure.
But I don't want to necessarily continue going beat by beat through this stuff. I'll just kind of we can touch on Doctor Manhattan. Um, obviously knowing
Which I
his
think he is. I think he is one of the standout characters of this book. Where that a part that I did, the parts that I did read of Doctor Manhattan. I think he is simultaneously a weird, kind of creepy character in my opinion, but also kind of like a he like represents like the human condition in a way where he is like he's a weird character, but he also has cracks in his character where it is very human. The whole scene in particular where he and Laurie break up. After that weird fucking scene where he's like multiplying and trying to get freaky with Laurie is just fucking weird. I thought it was weird, and I was like, kind of all right, like I get it. And then that was a really cool fucking scene, which is one of the most iconic scenes in this comic. Is the whole scene of him on Mars or on the moon or some other planet where he is sitting on that little rock looking at the picture of him and his wife or him and his girl that just broke up with him. I thought that part was awesome because he's portrayed as like this robot kind of guy that can't really doesn't have a conscience. He's everything, everywhere, all at once. You know what I
I was
mean?
gonna
Like
say, have
he
you seen that movie?
I haven't, but
It's a
I hear
good
it's
ass
really
movie.
fucking good.
That's
I
what it
heard it's really good.
reminded me of.
Yeah, so he's like that, and he's portrayed as like a very robot, fucking sentient being, if you will.
He's
Um,
omniscient,
yeah, and but still
godlike.
has yeah, godlike, but still has very human tendencies of like missing your girl. You know what I mean? Or like feeling some sort of like emotion at a funeral for the comedian and shit like that. Like I think he is a complex character, um, but just a weird one in my opinion. I like his backstory though. His backstory is pretty cool.
Well, yeah, one of the things that I liked, I mean, going back, right? We see him as this very cold and calculated kind of guy. He's very much lacking emotion, and we know that he's extremely powerful. Um, and we have that scene where Laurie walks out on him, and he goes to Mars. Um, but up until that point, I don't think we really understood the extent of his power and just kind of like the internal struggles of him as a character. But then we see his backstory, and the way that it's told is at first it's kind of confusing, but then you get like a grip for how it's telling it. He's living multiple moments of his life. You're getting his backstory through this window of him living it at that exact moment all the time. So like he's it's so hard to explain because it's so out there. But I think that was one moment in particular that managed to be super out there and experimental and weird, but also just like really land and drive home the point. You know what I mean? Like it was just
Yeah.
really cool how it was done. Is he's experiencing literally every moment of his life at the same time, because he is there in different points of time. He's like beyond reality. Like he's literally an omniscient god, which is why he knows everything, the secrets of the universe. He knows the way that things are going to turn out. So that's why he becomes such an apathetic character on the inside, because it's almost a curse, because he's like, well, what's the point? You know what I mean? He becomes so far removed uh, from reality, and it kind of reminds me of um, Omni-Man a little bit when we first see Omni-Man and Invincible, and he the big reveals and stuff where where they talk about how Viltrumites are so old and they're so powerful and they live for so long, where they just it separates them from humanity. Like the gap between humans and Viltrumites and Invincible is huge, and that's why he's saying humanity are like pets to me when he's talking about his mom. And it reminded me, I could see the parallels between that and Dr. Manhattan, where it's really put into perspective of how Dr. Manhattan views humanity, and just knowing how powerful he is, it's also kind of scary because he does lack that empathy You know what I mean? But like you did say, there are moments that are kind of like cracks in that kind of character. Um, but yeah, no, Doctor Manhattan is a very interesting character, and yeah, no, I really did dig that part. It was sick.
Yeah, it was it was nice. It was nice. Yeah, that's pretty much all my thoughts on it, man. Honestly.
But here, let me get past here. So going in after this is kind of where it starts to get interesting. Uh, Leading into chapter 6, which is where you left off. Chapter 5, I dug chapter 5, or issue 5. I know you said you didn't care for it too much. Um, it just felt like, for me, chapter 5, and it ended up being really disappointing because, once again, it felt like it was leading up to something that didn't pay off how I envisioned it or wanted it to. But it felt like an escalation, right? Of just like, oh shit, shit's going down. You know, you've got Rorschach figuring stuff out, and at the end of the issue, there's like this sting operation on Rorschach. He gets framed, and you're like, oh shit, what's going on? You got Ozymandias. There's like an assassination attempt on him. You're just like kind of wondering what the fuck is going on. It's just a really interesting scene. I think it's really well done, and just the whole issue, just that escalation up to that point. Yeah, I just think it's really well done. Do you have any thoughts on that? I know you said you didn't really care for it, uh, but is there
Yeah,
anything in particular?
I think at this point I was already kind of checked out. I thought the a cool part was the whole mask thing of Rorschach. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, dude.
Um,
Have
but
you
yeah, at this point I was just checked out already.
have you read or watched My Hero Academia?
I have not. I know a little bit about it though.
It reminded me of this character named Twice. He's a villain who's able to duplicate himself, but he always wears a mask. And like whenever he takes the, or he always wears the mask, but whenever he gets the mask ripped off, he goes insane because he's got like multiple personality disorders. And like it's like the mask, when he wears it, it helps him keep his mind like centered. But when he gets the mask ripped off, he's like fucking insane. And that's just kind of, it reminded me of when I was reading Rorschach. That's what it reminded me of.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. That does make sense for sure.
Um, yeah, he's definitely like a schizophrenic or something. But
Yeah, something's off about Shaq for sure.
moving forward, right? We don't have to go beat for beat, but I'll just kind of give you the rundown, right? We get in issue 6, we get a little insight into to Rorschach's backstory. Um, he grew up different. He was always different. His mom called him like a retard, almost like a Forrest Gump kind of character. His mom was like a prostitute, and yeah, his mom would like beat him and stuff, call him a disappointment. So he's just all around fucked up. And it's kind of a dark backstory. We follow him as he's like a kid, getting in fights with kids and stuff, and it just really paints the picture of his rough childhood, which leads into him being who he is now. Um, he's talking to this therapist there. Uh, yeah, that's kind of all that issue is, honestly, is just him talking to this psychiatrist. And it's kind of interesting to see. I don't really care about it a whole ton. But Lori, she starts to see, what's his name, Dan, who's like the owl man or whatever. They start fucking.
Yeah,
He
that was another weird part about the story, man, where fucking Lordy was like, "Can I go hang out with what's his name?" And Manhattan's like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" Like,
Well, I mean that's weird, but like, it also just goes to show how checked out Lori was from that relationship. Like I don't agree with cheating and whatever. Like I don't fuck with that stuff. However, I think it's interesting to see it played out like that because she's kind of in love with a man who doesn't see her. You know, because we learn later that Dr. Manhattan is like this godlike being that's everywhere all at once, right? And he's
Yeah.
removed from humanity. But if you take a look at it from Laurie's perspective, she just wants to be noticed. You know what I mean? She feels like that's why when they're like making love or whatever, and then she finds out that it's like a
He's
clone of
in the
him.
other.
He's actually downstairs working on his science experiments. She doesn't
Yeah.
feel loved at all, and that's why if she goes out and see this other guy or she's fucking with this other guy, it's like she's kind of testing to see. Well, not only is she disappointed in her husband, but she's also trying to get him to notice her. Maybe if she can make him jealous, you know, see if there's any sort of emotion that she can bring out of him. But at the end of the day, Dr. Manhattan's like, deuces, I'm a god, pretty much. And like, I don't know, it's just, I feel for her. At the same time, cheating is terrible. I don't condone it whatsoever. Like I said, don't fuck with that stuff. But I think it's interesting to see how it's played out there. And I mean, at the end of the day, obviously, her breaking up with him or divorcing him is the better option. But this is a fucked up story. So, I mean, it is what it is. You know what I mean? Give me just a second. Sorry, bro. My mom texted me.
It's all good, though. All good.
All right. Sorry about that.
Good.
Yeah. So you get what I'm saying, though, as far as Lori and the her
Yeah,
relationship with Dr. Manhattan.
100%. Yeah, I know, because I saw that too. But it's kind of weird. Just I don't know. I get what you're saying, and I do get where she's coming from. But I feel like you're saying, divorce, breaking up is always just a better option than just kind of. But see, and then Dr. Manhattan just doesn't really give a fuck. He's like, all right, later.
Well,
I'm on the verge of a breakthrough right now. Like,
but at the same time, he doesn't care because he sees everything as predestined. Because he's also, not
yeah,
only is he living in the now, but he's living in the future. He already knew that was going to happen. And regardless of what he does, it's going to happen because that's the way that destiny plays out. So that's why he also doesn't care. There's nothing that he could do to stop destiny from happening. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
I completely understand why Dr. Manhattan is the way he is. It's just a fucked up situation altogether.
yeah, yeah.
That's why. So there's a scene later in the series where Dr. Manhattan takes Lori up to Mars with him, and he's like, "I know you've been sleeping with Dan," and she's like, "Okay." And he's like, "So in about 5 minutes here, you're gonna tell me that you've been sleeping with Dan." And she's like, "So wait, if you already knew, then why are you talking to me?" Because and he's like, "Well, because it's destiny. I know that here in 5 minutes you're gonna talk about it." So it's like this whole weird thing, and then evidently, she does end up like spilling the beans, and she's like, "Well, what the fuck?" Like, and he's like, "I knew you were gonna say that." Like, it's like this whole weird thing because he's like lives outside of time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's weird, bro. Um, but her and Owlman start screwing, and they get back into being superheroes. Um, and I mean, it is what it is. But then they decide, there's all this other shit going on. They start to believe in the hero killer or whatever. Dan's like, well, Rorschach told me about this. I didn't believe him at first, but we've got to bust him out of jail. Something's not right. So there's this whole jailbreak sequence. They bust out fucking Rorschach. We start to learn a little bit more about the comedian, and come to find out, and the comedian is Laurie's dad. I don't know if you
Oh
saw.
shit.
Yeah, we come to find out that she gives she feels so strongly about the comedian, and she's like, oh yeah, fuck that guy, he tried to rape my mom and stuff. But I mean, if you look back also the way that her mom was talking about him, you know Laurie's like, well, why don't you hate him more than you do? And she's like, well, some things are best left in the past, and some things are best left not talking about. And then come to find out after the whole like rape attempt thing, like I guess a couple years later, she ends up like falling in love with them. It's kind of a weird situation, but they ended up like screwing anyway, and she got pregnant and had Lori. But she was like, it was just like a thing that she said was like out of lust, and she doesn't know why she did it. You know, I, dude, it's just one of those things that's kind of weird. It felt out of place and kind of weird. Um, but there were some interesting scenes that going back in time before the comedian died, where he was talking to a young Lori, and I guess him and her mom agreed to not tell her who her dad was, and he's just like kind of tiptoeing around the fact that he's her dad. It's just kind of a neat scene, but I don't know. It just again just kind of weird shit that didn't make a whole ton of sense. Um, but anyway, the politics are kind of escalating in the background. We're about to have like nuclear war and shit. And then they come to find out that the villain all along who's been orchestrating these killings is none other than Ozymandias.
Really?
He's the villain of it all. And so that whole assassination attempt on himself, he hired a hitman to try to kill him, to make it look like make it look like he wasn't being targeted too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we get this. There's this whole sequence where he basically. So have you heard? And this is also kind of interesting, and I did kind of like this bit. You ever hear the theory where people talk about aliens existing, right? Like UFO sightings and shit, right? And you know how the government is never like, oh yeah, aliens don't exist. It always seems like whenever there's like a UFO sighting, the government is always trying to blueball people into thinking that aliens exist, and they never outright say they do, but they don't say they don't, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they purposely, the idea of the theory, whether I believe it in or not, is that they try to purposely keep it vague in the event that when aliens do eventually come down, it's, you know how humans are all divided on Earth, right? We're all fighting each other. There's all these different political ideologies. We're all killing each other. It's whatever. But if aliens were to invade Earth, right, there would be an extraterrestrial threat, something not within, that none of us can handle from within. So the only way to unite humanity on Earth is from an extraterrestrial threat. And so the reason why the government never outright says that aliens are real or not is because in the event that they're able to stage an alien invasion, they're able to make a one world government and have complete control over the globe. That's the whole like tinfoil hat conspiracy theory. But Alan Moore kind of plays with that. And so Ozymandias essentially stages this mass genocide. Like he tries to replicate Dr. Manhattan's teleportation ability, and he basically genetically creates this giant alien, okay? This weird octopus Cthulhu looking motherfucker. And he experimented on this kid who was like a superhero, like psychic. He took his brain and like experimented on it and created like this psychic alien, almost like a fucking like mind flayer or something, okay? And what happens is he uses this experimental teleportation device to teleport this alien all the way to New York. But upon teleportation, like upon arrival, because it doesn't have complete control over it like how Dr. Manhattan does, where he has complete control over his own powers, it's like unstable. So it creates this whole psychic shockwave that just explodes. And it's basically like a giant, almost like a nuke that goes off in the middle of New York and kills damn near everybody. Like thousands of like I think it said like 40,000 people died or some shit. Like, and it just shows like people just laying in the streets, dead, head blown open, blood everywhere. Like just the entire fucking Manhattan and just like all of New York City, just bodies, people splattered up against walls. Like it's brutal. And so the reason why he did that is, you know, all of a sudden you've got this alien in the middle of New York City that just killed a bunch of people. And so the world is going to see that and be like, oh shit, we're being invaded by aliens. And he's going to try to unite the world by killing a shit ton of people. And so the reason he does this is because we go into his backstory, and he believes himself to essentially be the reincarnation of Alexander the Great. And Alexander the Great, way back when, tried to, you know, he was a conqueror. He tried to conquer the world and unite the world. And he believed himself to basically be the modern reincarnation of him. And the only way to unite the world is to kill a lot of people so that a lot more people end up surviving.
On some fucking T-Rex shit from Invincible.
Yeah, pretty much.
So the story just carries on after the reveal of Ozymandias.
So what happens is all of these people are dead, and the idea, right, is that Russia is no longer going to blow up America. There's no longer going to be nuclear war because all of the world governments, like countries, are like, oh shit, there's aliens. We've got to unite together, right? So now it's this grand conspiracy where um nobody so Rorschach finds out, Dr. Manhattan finds out, like all of our main heroes are here. They encounter Ozymandias in his like palace area, and he has like an evil villain moment. My plan, blah blah blah, right? But he's like, now you guys know, but you're not able to tell anybody because if you do, a lot of people are going to die because all of these governments are going to be like, oh shit, so it was a lie, and they'll go back fighting. You know, the only way that peace exists is if the lie persists. You know, if everybody believes that the aliens are attacking, then that's how they stay united. But if the lie gets found out, then they're going to go back to fighting. And all of those people who just got blown up, that Ozymandias just fucking slaughtered, their deaths will be for nothing if everybody finds out. So he's basically guilt tripped everybody into being like, well, shit. Now we know like this whole fucked up situation. We know this lie, but we can't tell anybody because then even more people are gonna die. So they're basically cursed with this knowledge of what actually happened, and Ozymandias just he gets to sit in his palace and get off scot-free. One of the things that I did really like though is Rorschach is like, fuck this. You know, one thing I always respect about Rorschach is he sticks to his guns, man. He's basically like, you know what, fuck this. I don't care, you know, at the end of the day, this is a lie, and I refuse to live a lie, and I refuse for other people to live this lie. I'm going to expose you, you know, I don't care what happens, I'm not going to let this world be lied to, essentially. And Rorschach dips, and he plans on exposing them. Dr. Manhattan teleports, and he's like, Rorschach, I can't let you do that. And Rorschach's basically like, fucking kill me then. And Dr. Manhattan puts out his hand, fucking obliterates Rorschach, atomizes him. Rorschach's donezo. Because Dr. Manhattan realizes, Laurie helps him realize the, what is it? Like the value that humanity has. And so Dr. Manhattan sees this as one of those things. It's like 40,000 people died so that billions could live, essentially, in peace. And so he wasn't going to let Rorschach jeopardize that peace for everybody else. So, yeah, Dr. Manhattan fucking obliterates Rorschach just there, turns him into a pile of ash. Yeah, that's essentially the climax of the story. And it just feels a little bit pointless, because, I mean, it's kind of like a interesting reveal, But at the very end of the story, you're basically left with Ozymandias just chilling. His evil plan worked out, and everybody just kind of has to go home and scratch their heads and be like, "Well, fuck." That's where the story ends essentially.
See, like I would have been into it for just Rorschach and shit like that. It just seems like it was not the story that was at the beginning. To be honest, it felt like it was just trying to. So what? Let me ask you this then.
What's up?
You read this. What is the moral? What is Alan Moore trying to tell us?
I mean,
What is the point of the second half?
I guess knowing who Alan Moore is, he's known to be this very cynical guy. Um, and I guess maybe the moral of the story, right, is that you know the rich and powerful win in the end, and us as humanity, we're all pawns in this grand scheme. And there's, you know, people who are powerful, more powerful than us, and have higher political standing, you know, are pulling the strings, and we're just living in their world. I guess that's the vibe that I got from it.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's all right. I wasn't expecting. I thought it was gonna be like some crazy twist, like Rorschach killed comedian or fucking Doctor
Oh,
Manhattan did, but I,
well,
I wasn't expecting.
So it turns out Ozymandias is the one who, like, he directly killed comedian. Ozymandias pulled up to comedian's crib, and because comedian saw him and was like confused because they were like, on the same team, he was like taken aback, and I guess he was probably drunk too. And Ozymandias literally lifted him up and like threw him off the balcony. Like, that's how he killed him.
Hmm.
And also,
Interesting.
you know how there was that part where Doctor Manhattan, they were talking about how all of the people who were around Doctor Manhattan get cancer.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So what actually happened is he wasn't giving people cancer. Ozymandias owned the company that those people worked at, and Ozymandias gave them cancer and used it to make Doctor Manhattan look bad, so to get him out of the way, to go to Mars, to fuck off. And because he knew that Doctor Manhattan was so powerful that he would get in the way of his plans, so if he could frame him in a way that ostracizes him from everybody else and forces him to into exile essentially, then he would be out of the equation. So
Okay.
basically, yeah, no, Ozymandias was on some like Eisen fucking like he was playing 4D chess kind of. I don't know. I didn't fucking care for it. And then he just gets to kind of like he fucks off in the end. He just kind of scot free. He's like, yeah, well, I just killed 40,000 people. There's nothing you can do about it, or else more people will die. So fuck you. My plan worked. It just
Yeah.
it just seemed like in the end there was like no real resolution. You know what I mean? Like, it was just.
Yeah. It seems like the story ends at the climax and doesn't have any conclusion or anything like that.
I mean, it. There's like a. There's like this final little bit where Dan and Lori, go back and see Lori's mom, and they're basically like, "Yeah, we're going on the run," and yeah, and then there's some little bit more like, I guess, political commentary with like the newsstand people, and that's about it.
Yeah, man. Not my type of story.
What's your out of 10?
It's gonna be like a four, like a four for me.
I'd give it a 6.5.
Yeah, it's definitely not my favorite, like by any means. It's not the worst thing I've ever read. it's not a. I don't know, man. I gotta be honest. I think I enjoyed Preacher and The Boys more than this.
Yeah,
Yeah, man. I just didn't like it.
yeah.
Did not like it.
I'm still
So
I'm still
yeah,
glad that I read it. You know,
yeah,
there were
yeah,
parts about it that I really liked, and you know, despite me not liking it as a whole, I can still look back fondly on those aspects that I did like. You know what I mean?
yeah, for
For
sure.
what they were. You know,
Yeah,
but as a whole, yeah, it wasn't my thing. It was just really disappointing, man. And I know we said this at the beginning, but if it would have just been Rorschach the entire time, if we just had a gritty Rorschach detective, not really detective, yeah, kind of detective noir story where he's busting into bars, beating up people, breaking fingers, and just like brutalizing motherfuckers for information and following up on leads. And like, if it was just a Rorschach story, that would be fucking sick. But Alan Moore wants to beat around the bush and try to be artsy fartsy with these fucking uh like comic strips and political commentary, and it just gets away from what made it cool to begin with.
100%, man. I couldn't agree more. Could not agree more.
It just
Which
feels
it
very,
just it seems like the story starts somewhere and ends in a completely different realm.
it feels pretentious, honestly.
Yeah. And while you were in the middle of talking about it, I looked it up and I just put is Overwatch is Watchmen overrated? And there are some people out there, obviously it's a critically acclaimed comic, but there's a lot of people out there that do agree that it is a little pretentious, a little bit overrated. Um, but I think this is just at the time this would have been an absolute groundbreaking comic. Um, in modern day, for a guy that's not really too into all that bullshit, I think it's a little pretentious. I don't think it's for a person like me, and for a guy like you to know a lot more background about all this stuff, and it not even resonate with you as much as it did for other people. Um, Overrated, 100%. To be in the top 20 books ever, not comic books, in books in any literature ever, I think it's extremely fucking overrated.
Dude, I've read so much shit that's way better than this.
Oh
Like
damn.
novels and comics and manga. Like, fuck, I would read Berserk over this any day. I'd read fucking Geiger over this any day. Transformers. I'd read fucking, I don't know, like Game of Thrones is better than this. Like, there's so much shit that's just better. Like, I don't get it. Like, maybe there's something I'm missing, but dude, I don't know. It's just disappointing, man.
Yeah, and like I said, we wanted to have some transparency here. I didn't finish it, and I know you guys are gonna fucking probably hate me for it, but like I've said 100 times, I'll say it again. I just not a story for me. It is definitely not my style of comic. Um, I'm already not a fan of wordy comics as well. Like the old, Claremont, Jim Lee, X-Men era. Even though it's rooted in something that I really do enjoy, which is the X-Men, I still don't really like the wordiness of it, but I can get over it because it's something that I enjoy. Watchmen is a completely original tale that I don't really buy into the world, and I'm not gonna buy into the novels that are in each fucking issue. You know what I mean?
Right.
So already I was set up for failure when I started it, and I already went into it with preconceived notions that I didn't like it because I didn't like it when I first read it. Um, so yeah, I think in our next couple buddy reads we need to more or less, like I get that we want to have a little diversity with we do like this, we don't like this, but I think we need to be a little bit more cautious with what we choose to read in the buddy reads. Like Berserk is obviously a given. I mean, we're both gonna fucking like it. You know what I mean? Obviously. But with something like artsy fartsy like Watchmen, I feel like me and you should, especially me, I should know that I'm gonna enjoy it, and have some gripes with it before I commit to fucking actually coming out with a buddy read episode. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get you. I mean, I don't know. I think that this was a good episode to have that discourse and discussion on, though. It being so well known and so highly praised, I feel like, I don't know, it's just a different sort of conversation than what I feel like most people would give. So I think, our input, and despite it being mostly negative, was still valuable.
Yeah, for sure. Um, and not trying to take away from your guys' enjoyment of the comic. I know a lot of people in your Discord as well think it's peak comics. Um, but yeah, it just different strokes for different folks, ladies and gentlemen. You gotta learn what your taste is and know what you're getting into. Like I knew this wasn't my type of story, but I was willing to give it a shot, and I was willing to, you know, take it at face value and really try to dive deep into it. But at the end of the day, it's still not something um that is my style of comic or storytelling at that.
Well, hey, did you know? I have a, I have something for you. A little fun fact about the Watchmen. Did you know that originally the Watchmen were supposed to be like actual like main DC characters, but DC said no, and so all the characters are like original characters, but they're based on uh DC characters. Like, so I don't know if you know this, but a lot of the DC characters in and of themselves aren't original. They're from like what they call charlatan comics that DC like absorbed and then like took their characters and stuff. So like for example, the comedian is actually supposed to be Peacemaker.
Mm.
Like like but DC said no, you can't use Peacemaker. So Alan Moore's like, well, fuck, I'm gonna create the comedian, but it's supposed to be Peacemaker. And I don't know if you're familiar with the character The Question, but that's Rorschach. Or Owlman, I assume is supposed to be Batman. Um, I could be wrong on that one, but I'm fairly certain. But yeah, no, they're based on DC characters.
That's pretty cool, man. I think the comedian Peacemaker parallel is pretty apparent now that you're saying that. That's the character that would do it. You know what I mean? That would be straight up, real blunt.
Yeah,
It's pretty cool. Pretty cool fun fact.
yeah. I didn't know that until not too long ago, but I thought you'd like that. Interesting.
Yeah, that is pretty cool, man. Yeah, I hate to be negative, man. I do. I really I do, and I didn't go into this wanting to hate it by any means. Whenever I spend hard-earned money on something, I do want to enjoy it. Of course I do. I mean, like, I'm not trying to, waste my money or my time. I do go into everything with the full intentions of enjoying it, but at the end of the day, um, we all have our different tastes, and this, at the end of the day, was just not for me.
And for me too, man. Like this being a gift from you, um, and I haven't ever read it or looked too much into Watchmen, so I was a complete blank slate. So I tried to get as much of out of it as I could. Um, but yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. You know what I mean? Like that's why I like having this podcast and talking with you. Is I refuse to give a like a not disingenuous review. Like I'm always gonna keep it real.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so yeah,
100%.
it's just who I am, man.
Yeah, 100%. And don't worry, guys. We're gonna get back to something that we do enjoy, which is Berserk. We're gonna be reading the conviction arc. We're gonna probably do. We're not probably. We are going to make the Lost Children and the conviction arc into one video. We're not gonna separate them. I don't think. Even though the Lost Children is, a pivotal moment in Guts' character development and him realizing that he is a fucking broken human being. Um, I think they both definitely go. It's a sub arc in Conviction. It's not like Black Swordsman where it's its own thing. Where there's
Right.
an absolutely drastic tonal shift with Golden Age and the Black Swordsman arc. It's still rooted within dark horror fantasy. But the Lost Children, man, I cannot fucking wait to get into the Conviction arc. Lost Children in particular. Um, and I'm more than excited to see, man, fucking your reactions to this these next couple arcs, man. This shit it gets insane. I had had a girl in my apartment and I was like showing her like art and shit like that, and just flipping through like some of the later volumes, man. I'm like, holy fuck, dude. Some of these fucking parts are absolutely nuts, and I just can't wait to see your reaction to them. So, yeah, just because we were negative on this video, I'm more than likely we're gonna have a more positive buddy read after this one for sure.
Yeah, man. I'm excited, bro. I've been thinking back to like where because as we've gotten nearer to us picking up Berserk again, I was thinking back to where we left off, and it was like such. I mean, not really a cliffhanger, but like it just like is so open. You know, it's like fuck, we're just getting started. Like this
Like
is
this is literally the beginning of the story right here.
yeah, dude. Like this
Like,
all was
this is
prologue.
yeah, exactly. It's like the first four books of Vinland Saga. Like that
That's
was
what I
just
was
the
just
fucking
about to say.
prologue. Yeah. So
I'm excited, man.
yeah, and this is like I said, man. I know Golden Age is a critically acclaimed arc in manga, but Berserk really gets room to shine and breathe in that dark horror fantasy that was the Black Swordsman, which was my favorite part when I first read it. I cannot fucking wait to get into this. It is genuinely some of my favorite Berserk coming up very soon. Conviction and the Millennium Falcon arc, or the Falcon of the Millennium Empire.
Millennium
It
Falcon.
Yeah, that shit is peak. Fantasia is kind of still fucking incredible, but not one of my favorites. But fuck, these next two arcs are peak manga, man. Like, like seriously, like some shit that makes you consider this is the greatest thing you ever read type shit.
Sick, bro. Yeah, like I mean, adding on to what I said, because I kind of forgot, but it was part of that same train of thought. Is with the Golden Age and the Black Swordsman and stuff. I mean, it's so famous, and uh, I kind of knew what to expect. Like, I didn't know how things or like kind of the in between pieces, but of course I knew like the big story beats, especially with the eclipse and all that shit. But moving forward from this point out, man, is uncharted territory for me. Like, I completely blank slate from this point on. So that's another one of the reasons why I'm very excited.
Yeah, and yeah, it's gonna be awesome. So I hope you guys are ready for that and more of a positive, because I'm almost positive that Luke's gonna like this these next couple of arcs. Um, yeah, so just be looking forward to a more positive video. I genuinely apologize for not being able to finish the Watchmen. Um, but yeah, like I said 100 times, I'll say it again. It's not my style of book, and if you do like it, I'm glad you do. More power to you. But yeah, just not something not for me.
Absolutely, man. I feel much the same, and yeah, no, I never feel, I don't know, offended, I guess, when people like something that I don't like, because I look at it in the way that, you know, I'm glad people were able to get something out of it that I wasn't. You know what I mean? Like, sure, I
Yeah,
might be wondering, well, what did you get out of it that I didn't? But, you know, I'm glad that people were able to find stuff that they like and enjoy it, you know? So, um, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up. I hope you all enjoyed hearing our thoughts, despite them being negative. And if you guys disagree or have anything to offer as far as explanation or anything that might clear some things up for us, or just your own personal opinions, whether you agree or disagree, please be sure to leave them in the comments. I would love to go back and read over those. And I would love to have a discussion with you guys. And if you guys want to have further discussion with either me or Cameron, a link to our Discord or my Discord, Cameron's a big part of it over on there. You can go talk to us on there. There's also some other people on there you can talk to. It's a great time. Um, yeah, that's why we do this, the discussion, y'all. We love talking about comics, or otherwise we wouldn't have a comic podcast. But yeah, guys,
100%.
thank you so much for watching. I've been Luke, the MLG man.
It's been Xboxgut, aka Cam.
Hell yeah, man. Thank you all for watching, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.